Welcome, everybody. My name is Charlotte. I work with the Conscious Food Systems Alliance Secretariat as a practice advisor, and I'm part of the team that is hosting this Conscious Food Systems Leadership Program that's been going on for over a year now, and we've had several cohorts, and we're delighted to be opening this new cohort, which will be quite international. I'm here with Jeroen from the Inner Green Deal, um, and Camilla, who's been supporting the course, and Noemi, who's our CoFSA community manager. So all of us are delighted to see you all today. And Jeroen, do you want to say a few words to introduce yourself before we start as well, since we'll be co-facilitating the course. Also, one of our colleagues, Laurato, um, is unable to join us today as she's ill, but she's also part of our team. But Jeroen, it'd be great to
Yes,
hear.
thank you. Very happy to be here. Yeah, my name is Jeroen Jans, originally from the Netherlands, and I'm the co-founder of the Inner Green Deal. And so my background is mostly in inner practices, mindfulness practices, and other practices to help transition to a greener and healthier place in society. And I'm very delighted to see you here and collaborate with CoFSA, which I've been doing for the last few years, and working with Charlotte and the team. So yeah.
Yeah. Great, and I've myself, I'm a nutritionist by training, but mostly from a social science background. I've been working about 25 years on food systems with NGOs, also quite a few years with FAO, and since about 8 years, I'm really interested in this interface between inner change and outer change. I've joined CoFSA in 2022. And I'm very happy about this because along my work on food systems, I've also become yoga and meditation instructor, and that has greatly enriched my work. And we have the opportunity here in this course to put all of this together. So we'd love to tell you a little bit more about the journey we're inviting you to engage on. And I think for that we have a few slides to introduce the context. So as you can see, this is a leadership program, but we're really trying to tailor to meet the needs of professionals working in food systems. So a few words about CoFSA. Some of you are members, some of you maybe not yet. And it's true, it is one of the requirements to join the course. We invite you to become a member, which is free. So what's CoFSA? It's an alliance of professionals, maybe like yourself, who found that to transform food systems, it's probably not enough to work just on political solutions or technical solutions, and we work on policies and programs, but often we are noticing that the human dimension is absolutely essential. That things like mindsets or beliefs or values and personal skills like the capacity to listen, to manage complexity, to be empathetic towards others, um, to manage difficult relationships or complex multi-stakeholder relationships are really essential too, but they've not received much attention so far. And so that's what COFS is doing. And it's also looking how we can harness the power of consciousness practices like meditation or mindfulness, nature connection, self-reflection, facilitation, all of those skills that can help us basically be more open-hearted and maybe be more efficient in how we engage with one another. So what felt like a little bit of a daring or crazy idea has actually been welcomed with a lot of interest, and our community has grown to include more than 550 members and nearly 4,000 followers since in the last 2 years. And we hope that you'll join. We've been exploring together what does it mean to make conscious food systems something concrete, and working also with farmers and policymakers and so on. And this program is really one of the foundations that gives us a common reference. And so we've been delighted to partner with the Inner Green Deal, who've been offering these kinds of conscious leadership programs to a variety of stakeholders. So we've been building on their experience in the program, tailoring it to the needs of the CoFSA community. And the idea of this program is to develop a more holistic approach to addressing the food systems crisis, looking at how contemplative practices and the cultivation of inner capacities, or also the adoption of the inner development goals, which we'll tell you a bit more about, can help. And indeed, the program is structured around the 5 dimensions of the IDGs: being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. And so the program is structured around 6 live online modules with a variety of exercises also in between. So for who is this? Well, we hope for you. It's for professionals working in food systems, can be from many different backgrounds, you might be working in the public sector or with the UN or NGOs or grassroots community level, you might be working with farmers, you might be in government or in the private sector. Really, anybody working in food systems is welcome. There is a little caveat, is that we do need you to be quite fluent in English, because it's a very interactive course with a lot of breakout groups and paired conversations. And so we need that commonality of language. That will maybe evolve in the future. We hope to offer it in other languages, but for now, English. And we do need a good internet connection, because, again, going into breakout groups requires being able to exchange fluently with other members. And joining CoFSA, because we really feel that this course is like an entry point, a stepping stone, but there's many opportunities to deepen what we go into and for you to contribute to the rest of the community's work by becoming a member. And we usually have a little bit more requests to join than spaces in the course. So one thing is we will give priority to people who can show that they have a concrete opportunity to integrate these learnings and this agenda of interchange in your own program or organization. We encourage you to apply with a colleague, 1 or 2 colleagues, because we find that when people have been on the course together, they are more empowered to bring some of these approaches to their organization. You know, you're not alone trying to push an agenda, you're together, you can enrich each other, support each other. We also give priority to people who have already been actively engaged in CoFSA activities, contributing to webinars or case studies and so on. And something we do really insist upon is, if you sign up and register, please make sure you have the capacity to fully participate, right? Because it's a free course, more people apply than those we can actually admit. And sometimes it's a little bit tough for us to see that those we've accepted in the end don't show up to all the sessions. That has happened, not so much, but it does happen. And we feel, would have another participant used that time actually? So please make sure you are available to join online. And we do record sessions, but the really transformative parts of the course are in the live exchanges amongst peers. So that's also, this availability is quite key. And yeah, it's a group of up to 50 people. And together we explore, how can we contribute to systems change? So as I mentioned in the introduction, a lot of the work on systems change focuses on the material level, the technological, but we really see with experience, and that's where a lot of the systemic thinking is going more and more into, is we can't operate that outer transformation in a sustainable way, in a meaningful way, if we don't look at what is underpinning the behaviors of people. And in this course, we look at that, but we use ourselves as the main subject. How is it that I can evolve, that I can address those parts of me that want to grow, that want to become a better listener, that want to become better at collaborating, that want to become more resilient in the face of the challenges that I face? So we're using ourselves to be those people who can help make that lever of change in the world. And I think I'm going to soon hand over to Jeroen. I think, no, before we do that, one last slide. Something that really underpins the rationale behind the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, but also this course, is this notion that a lot of the crises we're seeing, crises in food, crises on the environment, but also social and political crises, are underpinned by a cultural narrative that is anchored in a story of disconnection. We're disconnected from ourselves, and we can see that, for example, by the the poor quality of food that we often put in our body. You know, maybe we're eating mindlessly some chips in front of a Netflix or something, or we're disconnected from each other. You know, we see children no longer realizing that these pieces of chicken breast they see wrapped up in a supermarket actually comes from a live chicken, or we're eating foods not even thinking that they've traveled all the way around the world and are maybe cultivated by a farmer with very low income in unacceptable conditions. So we have these disconnections between the stakeholders in the system. And also we're disconnected from nature. We've been using it in a very extractive way, not minding, are we nurturing the soil, the water that actually is the biodiversity that are key to sustain our food in the long term. So the idea here is to work on a shift in consciousness, reconnecting to ourselves, to each other, to nature, so that we can then operationalize that reconnection, and hopefully that would lead to better diets, better well-being at personal level, but also more sustainable regenerative food systems, and of course a protection and a regeneration of the natural environments that we are all a part of. So the question is, how do we do that? What form does this take in the course? And that is, I think, what we're looking at. So as we can see, the goals of this program are to link inner development to food systems transformation. So again, just recapping what I've been sharing so far, understanding the link between inner change and outer change, working on connections. And so there is an invitation, and this course in a way is about making space for you to reconnect, right? We're often super busy. Use it as an excuse. It is good for your professional development, but it can also be a resource in your busy week, a time to breathe and enrich yourself, cultivating inner qualities that you'll find will probably help you gain in efficiencies, and integrate this in the broader work on food systems. We always try to be very concrete about how we show things and how it unfolds. Jeroen, would you like to take over from here?
Yes, thank you, Charlotte, for giving that frame. So yeah, I would like to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts and the practical elements of the program. And maybe just to look under the hood, we talked about 6 sessions. We start from the introductory session, and then essentially there'll be 5 modules. And these 5 modules are reflective of a structure that we've been using from the inner development goals. Some may be familiar with this. This is a framework that's been developed a number of years ago based on a lot of input from people around the world. And we won't be following it, you know, in a very isolated way, but we will start with these elements. We think that we need to start with being, with our relationship with self, as Charlotte already alluded to, our values, our purpose, our presence, our being present. And of course, we need to think about how we relate and how we think about the world, critical thinking, complexity awareness, system thinking, and our ability to reflect on why it's so difficult to change, right? So that will also be a module. And then in the middle, we'll talk about how we relate to others and the world, and in particular, the qualities of connectedness that Charlotte already alluded to, but also the qualities that are needed for that and that help us to connect. So just empathy and compassion, and what the differences are to going a little bit beyond the basics. And then from the more inner dimensions, we relate to others in the world, and we move into more practical domains, collaborating, acting. How can we do that? How can we overcome some of the problems that we face when we collaborate? How can we listen better? How can we relate better? And how can we have the courage and the perseverance to continue our work? So those are that's sort of the frame and the dimensions and sort of the underlying qualities that we will use. And each module, just to give you a sense, each module is 2.5 hours. And during each module, we will explore these qualities, but we will also do exercises to bring them to life. And in particular, you'll be in breakouts and you'll be learning and reflecting together. And we are mere facilitators. I mean, it's really, I think the value comes really from connecting with people from around the world, share somewhat of a similar outlook, and who are keen to change the food system in a way. So that's in a nutshell the program. Now let's unpack that a little bit further. It's not just about the modules as I was describing them. There's also in between a number of things that happen. So during the sessions, we'll invite you to practice. You'll get access to guided meditations, guided nature walks, and then in between the modules, you can practice that on your own. And you can share with people on the course how that was, how that is helpful, and what you're learning. And for that, there is also a platform. We use Slack to comment and to exchange with each other. You can find all the tools and guided meditations there and nature walks. And of course, there are interesting materials and some videos for learning. Because what we try to do, and this is quite important, this is not you don't learn necessarily about food systems from a technical perspective or how to grow food. You all know that. You're the experts in food. So this is more about how we can collaborate better and how we can change. And so the modules are more experiential, and some more content and knowledge is for you to read in between. Okay. Let us know if you have a question in the chat, and we'll answer those, or we'll do that at the end of this session. So what is it then that we learned? And we have done this now, as Charlotte said. I think this is our 5th course. We're just finishing a course for Africa, the region Africa. We just did a course also programmed for the Asian region. So what are we learning? I think if we have to break it, summarize it in three ways, then people really appreciate the connecting bit, connecting with like-minded, learning from each other. That's really important. Of course, also cultivating skills, to lead with greater impact, but also just to be more present, to be more resilient, to just to get a little bit more space in your day is something that people really appreciate. And of course, to collaborate with people on these topics and find ways to integrate this and overcome barriers that are often very common. So we have space for that so that people can explore how to do that and how to create new narratives, better stories to engage people in your workspace or in your ecosystem. Now, we do research around this. We have a pre and a post, or at least we have a post survey in this particular program. And we collaborate with Lund University, and we evaluate all that. And what we find, for instance, that people who are or display more compassion or are assessed or self-assessed to be more compassionate, they also show more or stronger pro-environmental action. So that's just one of the examples of this linkage between inner development and outer action. Now, what we also learn is that it's not just what you learn, but it's also how to deal with a sense of overwhelm sometimes that people experience. There's so many difficulties. And this is just one quote from someone who went through the program, that, through feeling that you're not alone, through collaborating, through feeling more connected and more balanced, they thought, well, maybe I can actually make a difference still and be part of that. So that gives also a sense of belonging and hope, which this participant really described quite well, I think. This is a slightly blurry picture. I should improve this, but here is a more technical evaluation. You see here on the left the 5 dimensions: being, thinking, relating, etc. And then asked people about to what extent they could improve on these qualities. And you can see here that all dimensions were improved by people. And it also shows, again, there's not one silver bullet. If you do this, then you you make a lot of progress in this field. No, I mean, I think we recognize that we need all of these qualities. But what is interesting, I find, is that in particular, the being and relating qualities, so the being, the values, the presence, and relating, the empathy and compassion, are those that seem to be most strongly developed in people. And I think you all work in this field already as professionals. The collaborating and acting, to a certain extent, that is less new, perhaps. But what will be new is to integrate this and the action and the collaboration that follows, building on these newer being and relating qualities. So I thought that is quite consistent program after program, that being and relating is in particular appreciated. And there's a lot of text behind it. We asked people to write about it and give us examples. And it took people talk about self-awareness, greater resilience, seeing oneself clearer, and how the practices help with that. And then what's also interesting is that people, even during the program, start integrating some of these insights and start to behave differently, communicate differently, collaborate differently. And you can't expect that people will have made substantial differences before the end of the program. And that wouldn't be healthy probably, but it is striking that you see people starting to make differences across these dimensions, which I think is helpful. And of course, that's what it's all about. It's not just about new skills, new insights, but it's the extent to which people actually do something with it. And again, people describe that, how that impacts them in terms of their leadership, and how they do that. And if you're interested, we will share these slides and you can read more about it. Now, practically speaking, maybe Charlotte, do you want to take this over again?
Sure. So how does it work? As we've said before, the course consists of 6 online modules. The first module, which is the introduction, we get to, a little bit more about each other, but also start delving into the interactions amongst one another, is on May 13th. And then each module is on one of the IDGs, and it includes every time a mix of, often just short presentations, and a lot of exercises with a lot of exchanges and self-reflection. And we also introduce some contemplative practices in those sessions. So the dates you have here, May 22nd, 29th, June 12th, 19th, and July 3rd. Usually we try to do them every 2 weeks, but you'll see here that the interval between the courses is not a regular one. So we'll make sure to note those dates and check if you're available. And then we will encourage you, as Jeroen said, we share some materials on nature walks or mindfulness that you can then use on a daily basis. And we do hope that, many of us, I think, try to have this kind of practice. We've seen in other courses that being part of a cohort gives an extra motivation, a certain sense of self-accountability that can help you make your practice more regular, or just start exploring new things. And how to apply? So as we said, we'll be accepting up to 50 participants. You can submit the application form, which is in all the course materials, please, by April 20th. And as we've mentioned before, we ask you to become a member of the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, and Noemi is also here to share any questions you may have. But becoming a member opens up the possibility of being part of the members directory, and therefore finding other professionals with similar interests, because we have a whole tagging system. Also, Noemi invites those of you who are interested to connect with other members through monthly coffee chats. And we find that in those spaces, people often find new ideas of collaboration or inspire each other. And in CoFSA, we also explore a few topics like farmers' well-being, leadership capacities for policymakers, cultures of regeneration and conscious local communities, the role of traditional wisdom. So we have all these thematic conversations going on. We're going to start one on conscious consumption. And another part which is interesting is collaborative circles that have been born, some of them out of this course. And so, for example, one of the collaborative circles is on higher education. And university professors or people working in academia in different ways are sharing how they can bring some of this contemplative work interchange within the curriculum of universities. So again, some of the conversations that are started in the course have spaces to be continued in the rest of the Alliance. So all of that. And if you, as I said before, if you're interested to apply with a colleague, you can submit your applications together, making it clear that you are applying as a little team. And I think, is that the last slide? Yeah, no, now we'd love to hear from you if you have any questions, or we're keen to hear, what part of the program are you most curious about, or what might be your expectations in joining this? And yeah, please feel free to share your expectations if you want us to clarify how they might be met. So this will be, yeah, Denise. You want to go ahead, Denise?
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I just want to say that what really strikes me and what I'm really curious and interested in is the whole changing oneself first. And I think it comes from I'm a nutritionist, and so my work has often been centered around trying to help people improve their eating habits. And so that is very much an inner change, of course, influenced by the outside. But and so I think it's really neat to apply this to the wider picture of food systems. So yeah, that's what I'm really curious to learn more about that and how it works. And obviously the course has had good results so far. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, just to give you a few insights on how we look at this interchange, we start, for example, by inviting us to be aware of the values that we hold dear to us, and just sometimes that awareness about what we care about is helps to give a direction. Or we have one exercise is on immunity to change, identifying what are the subconscious barriers that are actually preventing us from changing the habits we want to change. We look into what makes collaboration difficult, and how might I be contributing unknowingly to a difficult collaboration. We have a session, we speak about compassion, and we're looking also at the ability to be compassionate with people that really get on our nerves, or that we really disagree with. And how can we, through our own behavior, be aware of how we might be contributing to polarization? How can we use this awareness to transcend polarization and use the creative tension that exists in a disagreement to find another way? So again, then the transformation comes a lot from the self-reflection, but the fact that we have a lot of group exchanges, and often when you are telling your story or sharing your reflection with another who witnesses you, I mean, one, it's the opportunity to put words on something that help deepen your awareness, but they can mirror back. And of course, often what others share about themselves might resonate and deepen your own awareness about yourself. So it's this game of play of mirrors, and also anchoring the conversations in quite concrete situations. Jeroen, I'd love to hear more because it's really the heart of the course.
Sure, yeah, no, I think that's a very complete answer. I just may add that while we talk about interchange, we always relate it back to the organization, the team, and the system. So, and when we talk about system change and collaboration, and we get into the nuts and bolts of that, we try to take a step back saying, well, how am I showing up here? So this program, hopefully you can see it as really this integration between both the inner and the outer. And we try to keep that integration quite present. Yeah.
Yeah, and just adding on as we're reflecting more on the question, by bringing in contemplative practices like mindfulness or visualization, grounding, breathing, nature walks, there's also this notion of working at all our levels, not just with the mind. So one thing is self-reflection, thinking about immunity to change, but another thing is awareness of my body when I'm in a situation that tense. How am I tightening up in my chest? And how can I use breathing, grounding, visualizations, for example, to make space there, to feel safe in an uncomfortable situation? So we try to draw on, the rational, the mental, the physical, but also one could say the intuition and the other ways of knowing. So trying to have this wholeness, holistic approach to it. And just one thing to add is one I think I found absolutely, really inspiring, having done the program in a global cohort and then 2 region-specific cohorts, is how the fact that we are in groups that are cross-cultural, even when we're in a single region, like Africa is huge. So one thing is North Africa and South Africa are very different, is how we enrich each other's perspectives from various cultures. And at the same time, I'm deeply touched to see that we all seem to resonate in some common humanity. All of us feel vulnerable at some point. All of us question ourselves and so on. And we connect very deeply in that common humanity. Any other questions? Or it can also be observations or things that have struck you in what we shared.
Yeah, maybe I can say something.
Yeah, so yes, Ravi and then Seema and then Martin. Ravi, go ahead.
Okay. And this is the first time I'll be participating in something such, which has less to do with something to do with calculations or technical. I've always been involved in all that. And this is the first time I'll be experiencing something little different. This is what I just understood from your conversation. So really wonderful to be here, seriously. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. And thank you for daring. Seema.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm curious about whether there will be material in this program that perhaps addresses the resistance of institutions sometimes to make room for contemplative practice and inner capacities around systems change. I think that's one thing I struggle with in my institution, and so I'm curious if there's space for that.
Yes, it's actually where we build up to that, and to like in the fifth module, we really focus on that. What are the barriers to this kind of approach in institutions, and how might we use what we've learned in the first 4 modules to overcome that, and how can we support each other, and how can CoFSA be a resource, like communities that provide support to help integrate that change. And that's where also, as I was mentioning, the collaborative circles or other spaces within CoFSA become a resource for follow-up. And what we've been finding in general in CoFSA is, well, first of all, the fact that we're hosted by the UN Development Program really helps, because people can say, hey, it's not me being crazy. Look at these guys in a serious institution like the UN. They're actually looking at this. And so that helps. And we've actually found that, as Ravi just shared, many people, it's new, but they're grateful that these spaces are open, and there's a lot more interest and a lot more people out there than we think who are actually quite keen. Jeroen?
Yeah, I would like to second that. It's surprising sometimes, you don't expect it, but I work a lot, for instance, within the European institutions, and they seem also very serious on the outside. But there's a huge community of mindfulness practitioners, of nature walks. So we facilitate for their staff nature walks and for all sorts of dimensions. And as well with really activist NGOs that seem really tough on the outside. Yeah, it's all about resisting and, or beyond that even. And also those have often very significant mindfulness-based or other type of inner development communities who understand that it's important to connect to each other, to learn from each other, to be vulnerable, to create safe spaces, and just to not know it sometimes. And I think I hopefully you find that inspiring when you speak to people, and I'm sure there'll be people here in the community who are part of those groups, and that you can learn from how to do it. And there's no, again, not a silver bullet formula to do that. I do feel it's about a mix of credibility, science, evidence-based, as well as just simple kindness. But there's, again, everyone does it in their own way, and that's why it's so great to connect to this community, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Sima, for a great question. Martin.
Thank you for clarifying and presenting what you're about to, well, put forth. I realize that my interest in this is twofold, because I have my own experience with mental health issues, whilst also moving into my own business with food literacy as a focus for the Swedish public. And I find the international aspect of this so important to bring into the awareness of food literacy, especially in Sweden, being a country heavily dependent on imported goods from all over the globe. So I would want to incorporate the compassionate aspect into that mindset going forth. That being said, quite novel as my own. And also being by myself, I don't have a large organization. So also building on that, having the support. I have a good friend who recently just released a book on the inner development goals in practice, and with tremendous results. So it also, yes, the very same. Maria is a good friend of mine. And yeah, it made me so curious on how to apply that in a context where that speaks to what my interests and so on. So my overall feeling is sort of getting anxious about not getting admitted, but we'll get there we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. And yes, and I mean there'll be more. We can't say at this stage, but of course, and there'll be other options. And also, please do join CoFSA, because even without the course, there are so many spaces. And actually, one of the new work streams we're going to be opening in the coming months is on conscious consumption. So that's, I think, will speak very much to, and all our events are very interactive. So they're always the opportunity to meet others working in this space, and you might, find the community that can inspire you and support you, maybe even in Sweden, but also by connecting across countries. Yeah, and I see Ravi has a question for you in the chat. Maybe there's an invitation to write the name of the book in the chat, please, so people can find it. Wonderful. I'm curious, unless others have questions, but Noemi, I'd love people to hear from you. You are the heart of the community as the bridge builder. You know the members. Anything you've witnessed or would like to share with our group here about, what joining this course or being a member can be like?
Yes, I just put in the chat the next event we are having on for the Earth Day. So yes, I've joined, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 cohort of the Conscious Food System Leadership Program. And I can say that each one is different from the other. And I see that really an online community is always forming. Maybe another interesting thing that those connections are very important, and we try to nourish them through WhatsApp groups and trying to nurturing and cultivating the sense of belonging among the group. So it's very important also to have actually peers to which you can connect also after the course, that can provide support after the course. And yeah, I mean, I think the program Jeroen and Charlotte already shared is very beautiful. It's very rich, and it's really about, as they shared, creating the space for us, like taking the time for ourselves, and only by doing this courage step, really change can happen. And yeah, I see, at least from, you know, also the learnings that people share after that, there is no regret when you do that.
Yes. Thank you, Noemi. Amonye, Amogne? I hope I pronounce your name well. Please step forward.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much. I am happy to be part of this cohort, and I have already been the member. Charlotte, you are right. My name is Amonye.
Mhm.
I think you are familiar for me while working for FAO for a brief time in Ethiopia.
Mhm.
I appreciate the many materials you have been involved. So I am happy to see you here again. Just to give short feedback, I mean reflection of this platform, and maybe a question. So when I come across a week before on the invitation on the community of practice, agri nutrition practice, I was very happy to see the word conscious, inner capacity, and others. So I have been working for many years in the nutrition and food system transformation agenda. And currently, I shall say recently, I was managing a huge food system policy transformation program in Ethiopia, having many multi-stakeholder dialogues, providing leadership training that's based on mindset and emotional intelligence. So I think currently, because of the current USAID situation, I think I have got the time to read more. So because my project at DAI is working on that. So thank you very much. Really, I think from my philosophical point of view, the transformation can be achieved only through internally. In this world, I think people are becoming materialistic, and there are many different knowledge. But I think the way out will be the spiritual aspect, not to mean the religious aspect, but the compassion for ourselves, for people, for nature. I think we'll save this complicated world. So I think I'm happy to be part of this. But my question not to be answered today will be how we can make it practical. This conscious approach and inner capacity approach, how we can, I know there are some case stories developed, but even I will be happy. I think I have a plan to go more in research and others in Ethiopia and around. I think I am very much confident here in Africa, this approach will be better in Africa, because in Africa, we have much more of nature-based, our culture and others are inherited to this. So it will be the best way, to promote the connecting with self and others and with nature to save our planet, our beautiful region, and the many diversified foods, Charlotte, as you know, in Africa.
Yes.
So I am very much happy, but let's be strong to make it happen in reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amonye. And I love the way how I imagine it must be challenging situation with the, funding challenges we know, and you seizing it as an opportunity for having time. And thank you. Yes, I have such good memories of my time in Ethiopia. Thank you for bringing that. It makes me think that one of the richness of the course is the opportunity to connect with peers from other countries, but also sometimes from your country. And for example, we've had participants from Ethiopia in several of our cohorts. And what we're seeing is in more and more of our members interested in starting national hubs of CoFSA at local level. And so being part of this course gives a good foundation to then be empowered to see how we can take this forward. And because the question of how do we do this in practice is not one for which there's a blueprint, it's one for which we are all invited to be creative. And the answers come from the conversations and then how we look at this practically on the ground. Wow. Jeroen, anything you'd like to add?
No, it's great to see people here, and yeah, I would look forward to seeing your applications. Just think carefully that you have the time to attend the modules, and also think that there will be time for you to practice in between. So we will together explore how to do that. I know you're all busy, how to create space in a day, but hopefully you'll find that by creating that space, you also benefit from that, in your day. So it shouldn't be something on top. I hope you won't experience this as something you do in addition, but it's something that will create space in your day, more mental bandwidth, and that you'll find helpful. But please reflect carefully that we have lots of application, that this is the right time for you. And it's also okay to apply another time. And we just look forward to working with those who are willing and able, really.
Yeah. Thank you. I remember when I first attended the course as a participant, I kind of had to, because it was my job. And it was a super busy time, and it was not easy. But actually, those 2 hours in that week were a bit of a fresh air that gave me energy and motivation for the rest of my busy week. So yes, as Jeroen said, it's not extra, but nourishing. I'd love to hear from Camilla to conclude, because Camilla's been supporting us in managing the current cohort. She's a psychologist who's now studied in environmental management. And Camilla, any insights you want to share with our group before we close off? We might as well end a bit early.
Sure, thank you, Charlotte. Well, I will give a practical notice and then a reflective one. The practical is that we will share this recording to all of you. Yeah, for you to have it and go back if you need it to. And my reflections about the course is that, as Charlotte said, those 2 hours are a grounding, yeah, are filled with compassion, nice reflections, a lot of insights, and we cannot stress more the importance of assisting all of the sessions. Like throughout the program, you can see from session 1 to session 4, like the community that is being built, the support that you have. So each session you see how it's important to be there, to be open, how it's more than knowledge, but also for support, compassion, community. So yeah, if you have the chance to do it now, do it. If you have the chance to do it later, no rush, because time is whenever you are ready to do so. So yeah, just be mindful, and we will keep sharing information for you to make an informed decision.
Great, thank you. And yes, we do create a safe space, which means we don't record the sharings. When people are sharing, because it's quite personal, we don't record it, which is good for the people in the call, but it's actually bad for the people not there, because that's where all the magic is. So that's why we insist on not counting on the recordings, because really it's in the sharing. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for making the time today. It's never too late to ask a question. You can write to Camilla, and we will continue to be in touch. And we hope to see you online soon in a CoFSA event on Earth Day. That's the next one, or any other occasion. Thanks again for your time, everybody, and greetings wherever you are on the globe. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias, Camila. Thank you all.
De nada.
Rafael.
Ciao.
Ciao.